So anyway, without further ado, I know you guys are all very sharp and hardcore aficionados of linguistic decoding, so I'm just going to let you jump right in and figure out a couple aUI words. And yeah, what what if we could get an idea of the meaning of a word from the way it was spelled? And as you know, that was the case for Egyptian hieroglyphs and Chinese and cuneiform characters. And because they were based on drawings. And I think that's how language began. So here, if I give you, I'm just going to give you a few elements from the language of space, aUI, as we call it. And I think you can remember these um, in the time that it takes me just to explain them very, very quickly. And yes, and one more thing about the cuneiform characters or the hieroglyphs. Of course, the difference with aUI is the idea that they are much more basic. They are fundamental concepts, and so you don't need as many. You don't need as many as all the Chinese characters and the other pictographs that were in other languages. So here we have this is space. Space is all around us, and it shows an open space. Here is movement, like a spiral. It's based on the spiral nebula. This is a brickstone of matter, means matter. And a leaf is the symbol for life. Our existence on this planet depends on photosynthesis. A lightning bolt means action. Lightning is the most active thing in nature. A dot above a line means above. A shortcut arrow, a shortened arrow means towards, pointing towards. A dot inside a circle means inside. What's inside of something, of a fruit or even a person, is usually more important than the outside. And then a straight line is negation. It negates anything that's underneath it. So let's look at a word. And here, okay, this looks pretty long and hairy, but we can divide it up with these hyphens. We use these rounded hyphens so that it's distinguished from the negation symbol from the straight line. And we can divide the word up into the most basic compounds in aUI. So we have the word made up of three kind of basic compounds. And let's take each of these parts separately. So let's begin with the movement action. So that ends in action, and that's the ending for verbs, words of action, and movement. So that would be the verb for movement is simply to move. And we can make this a causative. This is a separate compound. We can make that into a causative, make move. So cause to move. And so that would be a general word for instance, drive. If you're any word that is causing action or is acting upon an object, you usually use this initial, an additional action at the beginning or somewhere before the ending. Here, this combination is just a preposition. So we have towards, we have space, inside. Towards the space, inside just means into. And we can use, this is not actually in the word that we had there earlier, but we will now vary that with life inside instead. So now we're going to use life instead of space. And that here in this context means a life inside. It's the container of life. So where is our life inside? Our life container is a body. So this is the word for body. And now we adding the towards that we had here. And instead of space, we're going to use life. So that's a shortcut way of saying into the body, towards the body. And so here now we have a type of matter. And there are, three main forms of matter: gas, liquids, and solids. Now this matter is the one that rises above other forms. So that would be gas or air. So we now have each of these components. We have gas or air, into the body, make, move. Does anyone want to put into the chat what they think that means? Air, into the body, make, move. Let's see. I'm not sure I can see. Oh, here we are. Here we are. Here we are. Inhale. Yes, yes, yes. Inhale. Very good. Okay, I should put this up here into the corner so I can see it. There we go. All righty. So yes, we have inhale. And here, while we're at it, we have a shorter word. We have life again. And now we have air again and verb ending. So life, air, the action that we do with life, air is more generally breathing, right, to breathe. Okay, right. That was a guess from earlier. But here, this is the one that is more generally to breathe. And then here, so you can there are many variations that one can make with when you create formulas of aUI words. So here we have the into again, and life, breathe, life, air action. So here is another form of the initial word that we had, and it's a little bit shorter. And then we can take the same word we had before, but use the negation here instead of life. So instead of towards into the body, now we are just saying towards the outside. So here we saying, this is pronounced tug anyway. So air towards the outside, make, move, would then be exhale. And here's the shortened form of that. And of course, you might think of synonyms that are going to be similar to these words. And those synonyms then would have their own features that are highlighted. So there would be different words. Like I'm seeing here, flying was one of the guesses. And to fly. So fly would be through the air move. Okay. And so that would be a different, you're highlighting different aspects of the words. And so so that's a good start. In our current political climate, we are becoming more and more aware of the disparities in ways of thinking, and even what is deemed reality and truth of what goes on in our mind versus what actually happens out there in the material world. But most languages are built from arbitrary signs that no longer have any intrinsic relationship between the signifier and referent. But what if language could act as a facilitator of reality rather than a screen that tends to separate our inner world of concepts or sense from the outer world of denotated reality? What if languages were built on iconic pictographs that gave us an anchor in reality? So aUI then is considered a priori, philosophical, oligosynthetic auxiliary language grounded in the idea of semantic primes. So you know, I'm sure most of you know, a priori meaning not based on any existing language, philosophical in that it is guided by some very basic idealistic design, and oligosynthetic, meaning that is built up from very few basic elements. And yes, auxiliary language being an additional or assisting language, mediating language. And the elements of meaning in aUI are considered semantic primes. We consider them semantic primes, which are irreducible concepts that cannot be defined in more simple terms, that form the foundation of human thought and communication in any language. So here is the chart of the aUI elements, the elements of meaning, and these are, we could consider 42 semantic primes if you count the numerals. And usually we've always said there were 31, but yes, numerals are also contained in combinations in aUI formulations, like the colors. The colors are made with nasalized vowels that are that represent the numbers. So the first light is red, and the second light is yellow, and so forth. So and then and the numbers are also used in words that show dimensions, like length and width. So the first dimension and second dimension, and so forth. So this is the idea of semantic primes or of a priori and philosophical language have a long history that dates back to the mid-1600s. And specifically, Descartes thought that universal languages should consist, or a universal language should consist of primitive elements. And then later Gottfried Leibniz posited or proposed a pictographic alphabet of human thought, which he termed the Characteristica Universalis. So that is very much the idea that aUI is based on. The universality aspect of aUI refers to the idea that aUI's elements are fundamental concepts that we all have in common as part of our human experience. And these are actually partially corroborated by long ongoing research from the Australian National University in what they have termed the natural semantic meta-language. And these are a set of 65 primes now that their research began in the early 70s, and they've looked at dozens of languages, representatives of 16 language groups, at least 16 different language groups. And what their purpose, it's a different purpose than aUI, but their purpose was to actually find exact, specific lexemes that would be representative in every language. And so they have done exhaustive research in looking at these various languages to make sure that these lexemes are representative, that those words actually exist in every language. And but 40% of these primes, 26 of 75, do correspond to aUI's primes. And the rest we would consider just short combinations. They can be formulated into short combinations of aUI symbols. So the idea is that different cultures would share a common alphabet, or actually a logography that we find even in numbers and in musical notation. Um, but and you could say, yes, well, the Roman alphabet is used in probably hundreds of languages, but how far does that get us? Can you hazard a guess here on what this word means by the letters? I don't think so. But so the idea is that that actually aUI elements, then the elements of meaning in aUI actually form more than an alphabet. It could be called a phonemic logography or a pasigraphy. I just found this word recently when I was looking under Wilkins's work, um, which is a writing system in which each written symbol represents a concept. So that's a new one for me. Um, so here, what was the motivation for aUI? So it was originally a boyhood vision of my father's, and not a visit from ET. That's what we have on the internet, and that originated from a book by Brett Steiger. It was kind of sensationalized because he was interested in extraterrestrial communication. What my father did was actually use it more as an interest approach in the 60s with the dawn of the space age and so forth. So it was a it was a an attractive way to present aUI, and it was kind of his idea from when he was when he was a young boy. And his guiding principle was to find a language of peace through understanding. And this came about, of course, because he was a he was a young man at the time when National Socialism came to power in Germany. Um, and although he was actually Austrian, but of course it came to Austria too. And he observed the powerful effect that the state planned propaganda that was very intentionally planned had on the mass audiences during the Depression and apprehension between the world wars. And I've actually more recently, and unfortunately, my father did not know of this. Probably because he was already in America at the time. He immigrated in 39. And so there is a whole body of work by a Victor Klemperer, who was a Jewish philologist and professor of German and Romance literature. And he kept copious diaries since being a teenager, and was continually wondering about how the Nazis were able to seize power. And so he began later on, he began recording his observations of the very intentional use of the Nazi language. And he observed observed and took notes on how the language became more and more like propaganda. And he concluded that it was actually not so much the speeches of Hitler and Goebbels, or even the leaflets and posters and parades and torches and the other symbols of the Nazi regime. But it was the tenets, and so that he concluded that the tenets of National Socialism had not, in fact, been absorbed by the population through conscious thought, consciously, but it was by the endless repetition of individual words and phrases and sentences, the language of the Nazis, that these ideas were able to take root in the subconscious of the German people. He has a quote here: "Words can be like tiny doses of arsenic. They are swallowed unnoticed, appear to have, or not to not, wait a minute, I'm not seeing the rest of that sentence. To have no effect, and then after a little time, the toxic reaction sets in after all. And he is the author of this Lingua Tertii Imperii, the language of the Third Reich, from 1947. And then my father's idea was also based on research by Gregory Razan from the 50s, 60s, called or termed semantic conditioning. And the idea about that is that my father's conclusion was that the conscious mind thinks in synonyms, whereas the subconscious or the emotional based mind associates in assonance. So we tend to think that if words sound similar, that there's also a relationship in meaning. And we find that in poetry, of course. It's beautiful. That makes the beauty of poetry and the beauty of language. But it also can be can also be abused and misused, because we have that a sort of a basic sense that similar sounds might be related. And he did classes. Gregory Razan began doing these classical conditioning experiments where he could transfer conditioning from initial words to their synonyms or also their homonyms. So if you could transfer the conditioning, their conditioned response from to a word's synonyms and homonyms. Now the synonyms was more likely to be transferred when the subject is alert and very cognitively functioning optimally, but when they were given a drug to make them sleepy, or any other conditions that there were other conditions that were tested that made the brain less functional, compromised the cognitive ability, then the transfer to homonyms was stronger than the transfer to synonyms. So that's a very key idea, and I think it'd be so interesting if that experimentation were to be continued with aUI, because that's a very interesting idea to follow up on. So let's see, did I go backwards? Yes. All right. So here are some of those alliterative slogans that caught my father's ear. Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer. And you see that it's almost as if the Volk folgt dem Führer, meaning that the folks, that's the most similar word. I mean, it actually means, well, what it actually means here is one people, one nation or one empire, one leader. And that was a very, very common slogan at the time. But it almost sounds, or it could be subconsciously felt that the folk folgt dem Führer, the folks follow or obey. So folgen in German means to follow or obey. So the folks obey the leader. And then what's more is Reich is a synonym, or a homonym, I mean, that also means wealthy and rich. It's the word rich. So it's almost as if the idea, if you follow the leader, if you obey the leader, he will make you wealthy. So those words, the sounds are put together. And here, especially too, in Blueboot, it's Blut und Boden, meaning blood and ground or soil. We could say in English soul and soil. So that is um, uh, the idea, it was a tenet of the Nazis that there should be a racially defined national body that would unite them in united. It was the idea of a national body was united with a settlement area, but my father saw it as a perverted analogy that confused human beings with plants. But if it sounds similar, it's put together, and so one kind of feels like there is some association in meaning, as if only those whose blood grew out of the soil had a right to live here, and which then give them license to shed immigrants' blood on the soil. So that could be the sort of underlying associations. And of course, here Heil Hitler is quite obviously means, well, it's related to hail, to health, healing, salvation, safety. All the letters of Heil are contained in Hitler. I can't quite imagine if he would have become so popular if he kept his original name of Schicklgruber. Heil Schicklgruber? Yeah, not so sure. Don't think that would work. So anyway, these are all many of these other slogans. I won't go into these right now, but there are also, of course, ones in English, in most languages, white pride worldwide, and here a slogan from the KKK. So these often take advantage of similar sounds, and also the rhythm and the constant repetition, of course, is also a very important part of slogans. So let's talk about the design, some of the design features of aUI. The idea is that it eliminates the discrepancy between homonyms and synonyms, which is what we're just talking about in these powerful slogans. So even the word light in English is a homonym, and but in aUI we have light. This is the source of light, and the rays spreading out. It's a shortened kind of symbol for the sun. So you can write it in one line. And quality, this is a symbol for quality, is the adjective ending. So light, quality, would mean light or bright. And the opposite, with a negation above it, is dark. And but light, as the opposite of heavy, contains, again, I hope you can recognize our word for air here, or gas. And so towards, space, upward. So like the quality of air that rises up is that quality could be considered light. It's lightweight. Whereas if it pulls down towards the opposite of above, towards down, is heavy. So these are pronounced im for light, and takem for light in the sense of the opposite of heavy. So totally different. And yim and tuk, well, yeah, that's not relevant. But anyway, this is tukim. So then there is an inner harmony between sound, symbol, and meaning. We've seen that already to some extent. Two dots together means together, and is pronounced b, which is a bilabial stop. And it's very obvious b, that we press the lips together when we say b. And so it looks together, it sounds together, and it means together. Towards, an arrow towards, pointing to, and to is also, to is an unvoiced stop, and the tongue is almost a little bit pointing towards, you could say. The dot inside a circle, meaning inside, is pronounced g, is a guttural. It's felt as if it's articulated very deep in the throat, inside, g. And the action bolt of lightning, v, is pronounced v, is a voiced fricative. So action is often actually, my father always said actions all very commonly create friction among us when there are opposing actions. Vibrant action, the lips almost vibrate with action. And part is also z, is also vibrating. Z, it almost sounds like a buzz saw. It's means part, and it's a part of a circle, obviously, and means part, and z sounds as if you're cutting something apart. And here we have light again. It's pronounced E. That is the highest, the brightest sound. It's a forward sound for, what do we call that? Forward vowel, and its light is seen before us, and it's the brightest vowel with the highest frequency, E. And then O and U are more mysterious sounds that they are felt as coming further from the inside of us. O is, we say that the feeling as a heart shape, reflected, our feelings are reflected, of course, in our pulse and blood pressure. And O is kind of what we might say when we feel deeply, O. And also U, mind or spirit, is something mysterious. U, that it's a back tongue vowel, and as is O, but U is actually a little bit higher. The mind is higher, hopefully, than the feelings. O is a lower tongue back vowel. So then, so that if it looks and sounds similar, it also means similar. There's some relationship in meaning. And here are a few more symbols. This symbol here means this. It's an arrow, a shortened arrow pointing down. So this, and this is human. The two legs are the two arms of a human. And it also happens to be the symbol in Chinese for human. So this human is I. The together human is the one I'm together with, is you. And our generic pronoun for or word for a non-gendered pronoun is shu, so the existing human. And human that we might have a good, positive, this is the symbol for positive, good relationship, or the togetherness, what we might have a good togetherness with, might be a friend. And then here on the right, I'm assuming you can see this because it's, of course, it's covered for me with the whatever the thumbnails here. You do see it, right? You see the whole screen? Yeah, okay. So together, having a good mental or spiritual togetherness is a basic word for peace. So there are similarities in the symbols. So there are similarities in the sound. Fu, bu, shu, bru, bru. And then we have the similarity in the relationship in meaning. We are all human beings. We all end in u, and hopefully we are made whole in the mind or the spirit, the triangle. And there are many trinities in philosophy and religion. So the elements and words are not fully arbitrary, but are intrinsically related to reality through their motivated design. And here we can go through a few more. Let's go through a few more just for the fun of it here. I hope you can recognize these already. This is light, life that depends on light. Does anyone want to hazard a guess? A form of light. Yay, plant. Yes, yes, yes. And then we have sensation, feeling, or sensation of light. What do we have there? How do we sense light? Yeah, vision. There we go. Sight. So that's our basic word for sight. Now, if we sunburn, yeah, that would contain that would use the word for heat, and that would contain that's light matter, matter that turns into light is considered fire. So anyway, would be the word for warmth with a quality, with a adjective ending. Anyway, let's take this sight word and add an action, a verb ending, and we have to see, absolutely. And then if we have a different ending, if we have part, we've already had that symbol, the part that we see with I, and then we have through. The symbol for through is a line through another line at an angle, and so that means through, and it's also used as the ending for tools, because tools are a type of medium. We work through a tool, and so our action goes through the tool into the work. So the tool that symbol for through is used also as a ending for tools. So a type of tool to see with, the most common, glasses. Yay, very good, folks. So here we have EO, EO, EOV, EOS, and EOD. Now, I've heard a criticism that says that aUI words are so similar that that's in fact I thought that kind of soul resol, that and other languages where they are based on elements or symbols that don't have a real iconic aspect to them. But in aUI, we do have these symbols, and so if we use the symbols, then there's quite a bit of difference between them. So if you focus on using the symbols, then, and if you know immediately, if you learned them, and it doesn't take very long to learn the sounds, the Roman equivalent, then I mean, in my mind, it's already, I'm seeing that it's a totally different element that we're talking about here when we have as opposed to z and d. Okay, so what's next here? I gotta move this. I can't see. Oh yeah, so another feature of aUI is that the imperative is expressed very politely. So if you're going to use slogans, you have to end them in, if you use imperatives in the slogan, you have to end it in good, positive action, which is kind of equivalent of saying, you better do this. And so it would be like saying, it is good to do this. And so you might, that would open it up to being questioned more likely. and to say why is it good to do this? And my father, his favorite example was always the slogan, drink Coca-Cola. And he got off on that and said, so why is it good to drink Coca-Cola? Where are the vitamins and minerals? So that was his example. But of course you can use um yeah. So that's one of the things that he thought would be incorporated into a slogan if you use the imperative. Like the current slogan, our political climate, um, stop the steal. Yeah. So why is it good? Then so as we can see, as you can see, there is a certain inbuilt transparency that opens us up to question, to verification, to critical thinking. One of my father's clients, he was a psychotherapist, he was a trained psychoanalyst, um, and he had a Nazi patient who was a former Nazi, and he was hung up about the idea that he wanted to die for the glory of the leader. And so they formed together. He helped him find a definition or formulation for glory. And they came up with a feeling of high, so above, we've got above here, and a mind or spirit. The supreme spirit might be God, word for God. And so the feeling, a God-like feeling. And so it would be as if you want to die so that Hitler can feel like God, and so he questioned why would I want to do that? So that is one of the examples of how he used it in therapy. Here is another main aspect of aUI, that verbs, the stative verb to be, is quite a polyseme, has very different meanings actually in different contexts. But we use only the word is, and is can mean actually different things in different contexts. So here, aUI uses different formulations for different contexts. Matter, so if we have a material that is a big house, we use the matter ending in, now, okay, we didn't have this symbol yet. This upright symbol is a symbol for existence or being. So that is the word for being. The symbol for being. And so material, being, then is the word for is. And in this sense, stative verbs do not end in action, because they're not really words of action. They end in existence. So so here a material would be used, for instance, in saying that is a big house, whereas a mental being, languages are interesting, or God is great spiritually. And then we have here mentally, oh, wait a minute, no, here, this symbol we haven't had either, that is condition. Those are two parentheses that hem us into conditions. She is sick today. The weather is beautiful. These are conditions. Hopefully she'll get better. Hopefully the weather gets better. It's a condition. Or he is a jerk. Now, does that mean he equals a jerk? Does that mean he is always a jerk? Does that mean his essential nature is jerkness? No. Hopefully this is also a temporary condition. Hopefully he is only partly in a condition of jerkness. Hopefully, it is a condition, and it is only partly of his behavior. So it's an aspect of him, but it is not his essential nature. And then emotionally, we could have an emotional is, she is so angry. We can have a biological is, the grass is green, related to life. And then we have the actual equation, the actual equals is, which is important to distinguish. So here, this is the symbol for equal. It's written in one line, so that so that it can be written in one line. And so equal mentally is, or equal materially is. 2 + 2 is floor, or ice is a form of water. So there you have those different variations. And yeah, to conclude, we have, let's see, wait a minute. What did I skip a? No, okay, I did see. Okay, I did talk about that. All right. So just now, to conclude, there is a team from METI International, that is the messaging extraterrestrial intelligence, that is helping NASA create messages, and they've asked aUI to be included in this message that is going to be put, these messages that are going to be put on spacecraft. It's the Europa Clipper mission, and it is headed to Europa, which is a water-covered moon of Jupiter. And so they wanted to include the words for water in, I don't know how many languages, as many languages as they could get. And so they included the word for water in aUI. And this is going to be announced in March, just now, soon. And they will take off in October, apparently. So here's the word for water in aUI: equal matter quantity. This is the symbol for quantity, like a measuring box. And so liquid is denoted by the symbol for equal, because liquids like attracts like. And also, if the liquids are not disturbed, they always take on an equal height. There's always that's the property of liquids. Yeah, I mean, sometimes we would consider water to be designated by a wave, but the wave symbol in aUI means sound, because it's the sound wave, the sinusoidal sound wave. And here, liquid is denoted by the properties of equality. So yeah, so we have some aUI communities here, and the new website is auilanguage.space. And I am so fortunate to have Phil Sherry's help now. We had a very sad happening that one of my board members suddenly passed away last year. And so he was my main collaborator. And but Phil has really stepped up now, and is very, very enthused about helping me with promoting aUI and getting the website rebuilt. The other one was very slow. It was getting to be very slow. And so we are still working on that, and we're going to make a big push this year. And hopefully we can finally get some things going. But, you know, we all have another life, and it's hard to get all that work done. There's so much that can be done. So thank you so much for your attention. Actually, I just have a few more minutes. I should say here, explain that aUI, the logo, is, of course, the symbol for space. and mind and sound that I just mentioned here. The sound wave or the sinusoidal sound wave means sound. So the mind sound, when the mind sounds, is a word, or here it's abbreviated as language. The sound that the mind makes is language, and so that it's a abbreviated term for space language. Space connoting universal.
I wanted to ask, how important is word order in aUI language? Does it change the meaning if we change the order sometimes, or do we have some flexibility for changing the word order?
I think there is some flexibility, but my father's principle was subject, verb, object. Yeah, that was and then indirect object. But yeah, that was pretty much what he designed it for. So yeah.
Yes, when I speak about word order, I speak about two different elements. One of them, the different parts of the speech, so subject, verb, object, and the other important issue, as far as word order is concerned, is qualifier and qualified things. So that, because there are nature languages and OTAN languages. So because some of them place the determiner before the determined element.
Yeah.
So
No,
what is the approach in
aUI? Yeah, in aUI, the modifier precedes the modified. No, the ending is what the word is. So a dog house is actually a house, but a house dog is actually a dog. So we have the ending, the verbs and verb and adjective and adverb ending, which is the ending, and we use quality for modifiers. They come at the end of the word, and the any tense endings also come at the end of the word. And yeah, and those endings are still meaningful. They're the same meaningful elements as they are. They keep their meaning.
Oh, thank you a lot, Andrea.
Mm-hmm.